News reading. Well, we have two types of news reading in this festival. One is radio and the other is television. Now, if it's radio news reading, we have to rely on your voice, and we hear over the speaker how your voice sounds. Make sure that in both instances you identify the station and yourself and the fact that it's a news bulletin. So say, welcome to the 6 o'clock news let's say, welcome to the BBC News at 6. I'm so-and-so and so-and-so. So that you've identified the station at the top of the piece. I don't want to tell you exactly what to say, because that depends on you. It also depends how you deliver the piece. It could be a very zappy, zippy station, in which case it will affect the delivery of the passage. Or it could be a more sober station where the news is more seriously delivered. Either way, it's your choice. And I want you to make sure that you identify the station, which we've already talked about. But I want you also to think about the stories that you're sharing. You can make them up, of course. They don't have to be real stories, but make sure they develop in strength. And so you start with something strong at the beginning. Don't have a light and fluffy piece at the beginning of your bulletin. You can finish with a light and fluffy piece at the end if you want to. And then leave us with an idea that the station is not closing down. Don't say, that's the end of the news, goodbye. Say, close the bulletin and then trail what's happening next. And then you can say, and now for the weather with so-and-so, you can name the person if you like. And now for the sports bulletin, so that the bulletin is continuing and you want people to stay with the station. You don't want them to think, oh, well, that's the end of that, and turn it off. You can tell them when the next bulletin is. Join me again at 6 o'clock for the next news bulletin. Meanwhile, we go over to the sport, whatever. But keep the people tuned in to the station. If it's a radio piece, you can read your bulletins because nobody can see you, so it doesn't matter. But if it's a television piece, then you need to make sure that you look up and speak directly to the camera for as much as you can. Glance down by all means, and then move the story over to one side. Have each bulletin, each story in the bulletin on a separate sheet of paper, so you can move it gently, noiselessly to the side. But make sure that you speak most of your bulletin to the camera and engage with the audience. You can use facial expression. I don't want a deadpan face. What we don't want you to do, though, is show your opinion about the bulletin. And if somebody has had an accident and you think it's funny, it's best not to laugh about it. The audience can be amused if you want them to be. If somebody's had something, then you need to be secure and somber about it. But you don't need to have a deadpan face. So engage with the story, but don't interpret the story vocally or facially. With Bible reading, it's important that you use the text of the Bible. Please don't add any extra words to it, either at the beginning or the end. Just say, this is an extract from Genesis chapter 2, verses 5 to 17. And then read the passage. Bring it alive. Use your voice to suggest the power. Use your voice to suggest the kindness of Jesus. Perhaps the justification of the traumatic experiences that are sometimes dealt with in the Bible. But it needs to come alive. It needs vitality. And at the end of the passage, make sure that you don't say, this is the word of the Lord, or God bless, or whatever. Finish with the final thought, because the words in the text are more important than any words that you can add to it. So finish with that final phrase of the Bible. It isn't necessary to say anything about where the text, who's written the text, or who it comes from, or if it's a belief, because you're not doing it in church. You're doing it in a platform for other people to listen to. And you'll be reading to people who aren't Christians. They could be Muslims, they could be Hindus, they could be any religious faith, Buddhists. So what you're doing is sharing the passage, the importance of the passage, the significance of the passage. But you do not need to bless it because you're not in church. So just remember that. As I say to you, let the last phrase hang in the air at the end of the reading, and just wait for a second or two before you close the text and leave the platform.